Good morning, Moonies! Welcome back to Which is the Moon, Season 11, Week 14. This week we are discussing Threshold Magic. Now, for some of you, this may be a new title, something that you've not heard of before. For those of you that utilize this form of magic, you might be thinking, I gotcha. I know what this is, and feel free to skip this week and move right along. So, I'm going to tell you my interpretations of Threshold Magic and how I utilize Threshold Magic in my practice, and so on and so forth. Now, thresholds can be anything that's in between. Think about your in-between spaces. A lot of people think about the thresholds in terms of, the groom carrying the bride across the threshold. And that's absolutely one threshold. But there are other thresholds. A threshold is a point between any two given points where they're kind of melded and they're mixing. So if you think about where rivers meet the ocean, where that fresh water meets salt water, and you've got that weird kind of area, that is a threshold. And I absolutely love when I can to gather water from that area and utilize it in some of my spellcraft and threshold magic, because that is absolutely a threshold. Unfortunately, I don't have access to a lot of those kinds of spaces. But areas where creeks meet rivers, I can sometimes get that. So another threshold would be time-wise. And for me, I live for the in-between times. The evening specifically is my time. I feel most energetically alive at that point between daylight and sunset, so in the twilight hours. Some people feel very alive during the dawn hours, and that's kind of an in-between. So any magical workings that you do in those two times would be, in my opinion, a form of threshold magic. It's when you are kind of utilizing that space within the space, that time outside of time, that space outside of space, where the two are melding and it's not clear which direction you're going. That is threshold. So same thing for times of the year. I consider spring and fall to be threshold times because it's the time between summer and winter. So for me, magical workings done on Mabon are actually kind of threshold magic. Same thing with star is kind of the beginning of spring for me. For me, but it would be kind of that time in between there, where you're not really at spring, you're not really in summer. Emulk, I guess, would be a better description of that, because Emulk is the celebration of when it's starting to sprout, and so you're getting the first milk of the new cows, and it was offered as a libation to the earth. That was, in my opinion, a sort of threshold magic as well, because you're taking that in between time and you're utilizing that to boost your spell or to affect your spell. Now, why are these times important? Well, I've given you one reason. They're in between spaces. They're times that are outside of times, which for us as magical practitioners are highly powerful because it's a time of transition and change. So I find that spells for transformation get an extra boost when you do them during a period of time that is transitional or in between. So I will do a lot of workings like right at the dark moon. Now I'm going to make a brief kind of differentiation here. A lot of people use the term dark moon and new moon interchangeably, and that's not exactly accurate. And so some people get hysterical if you do use them interchangeably, because it's not accurate. The dark moon is the point at which the moon is completely black, not visible, but it's not quite the new moon. The new moon is that point in which you see that first sliver of the moon as it's going back into its waxing cycle. Okay, so the new moon is technically that first little sliver of moonlight that shows up, and the dark moon is the time when the moon is black and you can't see any of it at all. So I consider that to be an in-between time, and I consider the very first of the waning moon to be an in-between time, and so I will do threshold magic there as well. Now, another definition for threshold magic that I hold in my mind is that when you are trying to cross from one thing to another. So for example, sorry, my hair just looks stupid, so I'm going to fix it. I had what I thought was going to be a video interview this morning, and it ended up being an on-phone interview, so I was rushing trying to get my hair at least up. Okay, so let me give you a definition of what I mean by that. My husband is in the process of transferring his life. He is trying to move from working in the optical industry to working in the field of social work. He's finally starting to get some bites because I've been working nonstop to get some, magically and physically, to make this opportunity arise, because he just, my hair, I hate my hair. He just can't seem to get his foot in the door. Well, he's finally kind of at that point, and I was doing a lot of threshold magic where I was using a lot of snake shed, because snakes I consider a threshold animal. They cross between the physical world and the non-physical world. I kind of consider birds a threshold animal too, because again, they're crossing between a space that's physical land and not physical land. So I will use feathers, I'll use snake shed in threshold magic. In my opinion, scrying, particularly mirror scrying, is a type of threshold magic, because you are crossing between the physical world and the spiritual world when you do that. I guess in a way, meditation would also be a form of threshold magic anytime you're using any kind of mind-altering substances. We'll just call it that. If you're using flying ointment to enhance your meditation, if you use any kind of other substances to do that, that would be a form of threshold magic too, because you're now crossing between spaces. So threshold magic can be kind of a broad topic, and it has various different aspects, depends on what you're talking about. So those are a few of the ways in which I will utilize threshold magic. Going back to what I was saying about my husband, I have been doing workings to try to transition him from the opticianry into social work, and that would be a form of threshold magic. So transformational magic, in my opinion, any type of spell for transformation is a form of threshold magic, because you're trying to cross a threshold. You're trying to get from one point to a defined other point, and you're kind of in that in-between space. Sorry about that. Harold walked in the door, so I wasn't sure what his response was going to be, but he's not feeling too good today. He's got a headache, and I think some of it has to do with the stormy weather that's going on outside. I think it's stirring up a lot of stuff, because I'm a little congested myself. So in any case, that's my talk on threshold magic. I don't think threshold magic is one single definable thing. I think it consists of lots of different things, but all centered around the same theme of those in-between spaces, times between times, places between places. All of that can be incorporated and interpreted as the use of threshold magic. So thank you again for watching. I look forward to your comments and questions below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.